My name is James Samuel Pigneri. I'm a son of two Italian immigrants that came to America. My mother Josephine, my dad Rocco. And we lived, I was born in a Midwest town, Des Moines, Iowa. Uh, my parents came here at a young, my mother came at a young age. My father came in after World War One. My dad was, he had fought, he was attached to a British unit, and he was captured in a battle somewhere in Austria, someplace like that. And he was a prisoner of war 18 months. And during World War II, he worked for the railroad, and they worked 7 days a week. My mother went to work for a defense production company and made, I forgot, khakis, backpacks or something. And everybody that I knew in that particular, at that particular time of a time of history was involved in this World War II. Right. And now, shortly after World War II, I graduated. The World War ended in 1945. I graduated from high school, Abraham Lincoln High School, 1946. I was 18 years old. Right after graduation, there were a couple of people, a couple of men that in those days, a couple of schoolmates that we all decided we're going to join the Navy. Two of them were twins, and they were all born on the same day I was. Birthday was April 28th, 1928. We go down to join the Navy, and they said I was colorblind and flat-footed. Well, it wasn't really that kept me out. Everybody wanted to join the Navy because the Navy is more glamorous and it's a little bit more safe and whatever. And anyway, all three of us got turned down for some reason or another. And I later was drafted, and I was hoping that when the draft came along that they says, "Oh, we don't want you, you're colorblind or flat-footed." But that was the Navy saying, "We have enough. Come back some other time."
Wow, interesting. Yeah, when were you drafted?
Drafted I can't remember the date that we had to. The law was passed that you had to sign up for the draft. It might have been something carried over from World War II, but I was drafted in August of 1950, and that's when I signed up, and I started getting paper. You're in the draft, but I was not called till September. In September, early September, within weeks after I signed in, I was ordered to report to the federal building in Des Moines for induction to the U.S. Army, and that was on October the 2nd. We were shipped. We went by train from Des Moines. We were shipped to St. Louis. In St. Louis, we changed and got on another train, and then we ended up in the Ozark, a place called Fort Leavenworth, the camp. Now, the camp was deactivated after World War II, but quickly activated, and it was activated, and the 6th Army Division, 6th Armor Division was going to reactivate again. They were a big tank division that served in Europe. When I got to Fort Leonard in fact, everyone that was on that train, everyone from Des Moines, Iowa, I have the list of the names. They were assigned to an engineering company. Now, this engineering company, they were put together. They belonged to a reserve unit, and they didn't know that a lot of them were from World War II, that within months or whatever years they would be back in the service. And they were the cadre that trained us. They were fine people from Dallas, Texas, and they all worked for one big engineering company called Browning Ferris. And Browning Ferris is still around. I think they have something to do with the California Speed Rail or something, yeah. And they trained us. And I finished basic training 6 weeks into the months. It must have been December. And after basic training, what they decided to do is the people that lived on the east side of the Mississippi River all went to Europe, Germany, whatever. We that lived on the west side were called the FECOM, which is Far East Command. A group of us, they must have picked us up. I'm not going to say that they wanted us to stay back and train the new draftees coming in. And I was one of them that was chosen. And I went to some type of a school in which really, actually we did a lot of close order drilling. That is how you teach. I guess that's how you teach how to work together, whatever it is, close order drill. Anyway, I was assigned then to a position of instructing the draftees. And actually it was not instructing, it was more of a test, because they've already had how to handle their rifle and so forth, and I was in charge of a rifle range. It had this old, it's not used anymore. They had pull-up targets, they had a rope, and they pulled up the targets, and they were supposed to get 6 rounds off. And it was in the dead of winter, and I was not happy with it, and I wanted out of there. And I don't know whatever possessed me. I hope this is all go into, you can eliminate some of it. Whatever possessed me, I put down, I want to go pipeline. I'm a printer, civilian life. There were printers in the Army, Stars and Stripes. I says, if I go pipeline, I have a good chance of being assigned to whatever they do printing in the Army. Well, lo and behold, the Army had changed the printing MOS because it was being done by civilians. And I was in what called pipeline. Okay, I still was assigned to the engineers because I had engineering training. I was assigned to Camp Drake in Japan. And I went to Japan. If you were assigned to Korea, you'd go straight to Busan.
Okay.
But I went to Japan, and I was supposed to report to Camp Drake. I can't remember where I ended up in Japan. It was Yokohama's where we disembarked. But somewhere in that period of time, a very short period of time, the Chinese had started their big spring offense, and their object was to wipe out the 8th Army, 8th Army. And they were doing a pretty good job of it. And the 2nd Infantry Division was almost, between the wounded and the equipment that was destroyed and so forth, and the KIAs was in a lot of disarray. I was assigned to the infantry, 2nd Infantry Division, and I might have stayed at Camp Drake's for approximately a week and a half, and the next thing I knew, I was on a train going to Busan. I take it back. No, I was on a train to go to Okasaka, Japan. From there, I was on a ship to Busan, and Busan is where I landed in Korea.
Got it.
Busan it has to be close to Seoul.
Yeah,
because
Busan
I remember
is like the southern tip of Korea.
I didn't want to.
Yeah, are you sure?
No,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Maybe we'll leave it here in case you want it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I can leave it here, but.
So you were part of the 2nd Infantry.
I was assigned to the 2nd Infantry, and
what was your rank?
My rank at that time was a Private E1 or Private E2.
Okay.
Because of the basic training or whatever it was, I was assigned to a headquarter company. In other words, I was down at the bottom. I mean, this is where all the action for the battalion. We had 3 regiments. I take it back, we had 3 companies. And we had Easy, Fox, George, and a heavy weapons company. And the battalion headquarters was the heart of the operation.
Okay.
And anyway, I was assigned the 2nd Battalion, and we went from Busan. We went by train to a place called Wonju, and that was the end of the main supply route or something. No, I take it back, end of the railroad or something. They could, whatever it was, it might have been destroyed or something. Okay. And then from Wanju to where we went to another area by truck. And going up there by truck was very, very depressing because as we were going up there were Jeeps that had bodies of 2 liters on the hood. And you saw those, and 1, 2, 3. I mean, it was not something that, for a person that just landed in Korea, right. It was not the most welcoming sight. Right. Anyway, we got to another area to get to the 2nd Battalion command post. We had to walk. We had to hike because the road was ended there. And when I got there, it was in the afternoon. I couldn't believe it was not what I expected. I left Fort Leavenworth, everything organized. Everything was in a state of confusion. There was a lot of artillery going on. There was a lot of whatever it was not what I expected. To give you an idea, the command post was in a ditch. And it was all open. There was people on. In those days, you had a walkie-talkie or telephone. I wasn't in the area in assignment. I bet not even an hour, 2 hours, and they says we have a detail for you, and you go out with I think 6 civilian transport corps. That's it. And plus there was 2 other people that had 2 other soldiers that had experience, and says you recover the body of the platoon sergeant that was killed in a patrol. The body they generally mark it, and to me I says, God, is this? The thought went through my mind. I've seen people that were passed away, deceased in a casket. I've never seen anyone that was shot up in a field. I says, well, I wonder what we're going to find. Anyway, we start going up there, and all of a sudden there's a barrage of mortars. And from what I learned when you attack in basic training, generally they lay down mortars to soften up the enemy. But these mortars were coming from the enemy. It was not friendly mortars, and we could see in the hills, the forward observer, that's who it was with us. He had the glasses. He could see in the hills. This is a line of, I forgot what they had a term for it, but it was the enemy. They tried to identify North Koreans and the Chinese communists. The Chinese had come into the war then. And it says, the columnist says, there's no way we're going to get there. So we aborted the mission. We turned around and got back, and we had sea rations. I ate out of a can the first. I think we ate out of a can on the train coming up. One of our meals, and that was the fare for the next. I can't remember how long we were there, but little by little, the second division was surrounded by, I'm gonna say like 10 Chinese divisions. I mean, they were surrounded. Wow. But the division fought back, and you can't believe it. I mean, I got my first experience to see someone that they're fighting. They're determined that they're not going to be run out of that thing. They were able. We set up some perimeters. I want to interject here. I was a combatant, but not a combatant that had to take a hill. I was in situations where I became a combatant. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit later about how I earned my combat infantryman badge, and there was times that I had to go in a blocking position, a listening post, go through no man's land. If you were attacked or you ran into the enemy, you had to fight, but you didn't. That was not your primary line of duty. The duty was, our platoon was to supply all of the ammunition that was needed up in the front, And when the soldier's up fighting, he doesn't turn around and comes back down the hill. You go up there and you almost hand it to him. If someone's shooting at him, they're shooting at you. Okay. Anyway, and then we had, actually I was in charge. It was the Pioneer platoon. Pioneer was a kind of a catch-all name. Anything that you needed to dig in or whatever it is, create a fortification. We had the concertina wire, the barbed wire. We had things. We had some, but not. It wasn't our. It wasn't really our position to furnish booby traps. But the booby traps was handled by another platoon, another special company. Booby traps that you set. That's when they're. Our men are in a line of defense and they're standing. Then they want a booby trap. They want the concertina wire. They want the tools that I had available for them. In the meantime, I also went up and carried ammunition. Yeah.
So
I didn't carry the ammunition, the CTCs. I don't know what we do without them.
Okay. Wow. Did you have any interactions with Korean soldiers while you were there?
Yes.
Oh, can you tell me about that? Do you remember what they were like?
Well, I've got a book. I'm going to show you some. I show you some pictures.
Oh, okay.
I remember Pak. He was a camera person. Those days we didn't have it. Pak 1, Joe 2, and the reason we call him Joe 2 because we couldn't pronounce their Korean name, so he was Joe 1, Joe 2. Pak was either 1 or 2 or 3. Pak's dad was a camera person because he'd send some cameras or something to us. And I had, he asked me the question, interaction with some soldiers. As I think back, I think I owe my life to a couple of Korean soldiers, 2 MPs. Now, when you say interaction, we met along. I was back behind the lines. I was getting ready to go up to the lines, the front lines. I had some replacements. They needed some men up there, and I was going up there and whatever they wanted me to do up there. Anyway, I bet they weren't 17 years old. They were young boys. Of course, I wasn't that old either. They were MPs, Korean MPs. And they spoke good English. All the Koreans that we outside of the CTCs spoke English, and they spoke it well. Joe Tu, Pak, and there was a couple of more. I forgot their name. The Papa San, he didn't speak much English, but he knew how to take care of me, my personal needs. Anyway, we gabbed for a while. Like GIs, we asked them a question, they asked us a question, and we probably gave them some cigarettes or something because we had a lot of that stuff and the Koreans didn't have it. But anyway, we gabbed. We must have gabbed for an hour. Anyway, there's one serviceman that I remember. I can't recall his name. I might. He was from Chicago, and we got talking. He was Catholic. And so we start talking, and all of a sudden, the Koreans take off, the MPs, and they were going up to the hill too. They were taking that path. It was a draw. Okay, you go in a draw because the enemy doesn't see you. Okay, what they didn't know is the enemy had that draw zeroed in, and whoever went in first. Both Koreans were killed by mortar fire. Yeah. So I was not familiar with that area. I says, how we're going to get up there? I got these replacements. I had the CTCs had some ammo, and there's some wounded that had to be pulled off, and I said we better scatter, and I went one way, and I says that's where we're going to head up to that hill. So I told them to scatter, everybody, which I probably shouldn't have. But, there was nothing else to do. So we kind of scattered and we kind of hugged the hill, but we stayed away from that gulch. And all of a sudden I find myself in a hastily minefield. And what it was half-ton, half blocks of TNT with the detonator in it. And what it was is a shoe bomb. And you kicked it and it went off. Wow. And I walked in because between where we were at and the hill, the enemy still, while they weren't there, they still had access to those positions. They must have, before we got there or something, they just tossed them on the ground. And I got up to the hill and the men that I was supposed to take up got there before me. I says, what am I going to tell them? I says, I'm going to get, I can get, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What do you think you have probably have so many stories, but what do you think would be one of your most difficult situation that you were in, and then on the other hand, most rewarding and even happy?
Well, one of the lousiest, a lot of them were, anything we did was undesirable. I mean, it's just something that we had to do, and it was either that or like dig in fortification, bring up ammo, take down the wounded, take down the KIAs. But we were in some type of a offense. We broke out. We broke out of that. The infantry division broke out of that trap. Whatever it was, little by little, we broke out of it. Anyway, it was an assignment. They needed extra men, and they didn't have enough men. And what they wanted mostly was a listening post. And we had communications with them, and we were not to engage. In other words, if they didn't bother us, we're not to bother them. But at night when you're up in some areas, there was always patrols. They're probing patrols. We went out and probed. They come out and probed. They wanted to see where you're at and see. And we wanted to see where they're at. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'd fire or something anyway. There was two, this in here I went 72 hours without sleep. And I mean, I couldn't handle another night. And it was, I'll never forget the guy I was assigned with. We were scattered out about 10 feet, 20 feet between positions, and that was clear across that hilltop, whatever it was. I can't remember the details, but anyway, and you slept 1 hour and you got up 1 hour. That's how it was. We decided 1 and 1, 1 and 1. Well, it worked out for a while. Then we tried something else. It worked out. It was on towards the end, and we had little rations. We didn't know we were going to be up 3 nights because we had to be called back. They says, you stay there till we call you, come back and get you. And that was a whole string of men clear across that line. Well, I was with this soldier from Brooklyn, New York. His name was Abraham Weiss. I'll never forget him because he went to sleep on me a couple of times. And we got pulled off after the third night, and we were told to go we had a little pup tent back in the area back there, and they fed us. They had food waiting for us and fed us and slept. And we slept. I slept. I don't know whether I slept a day and a night. I slept for a long time. The next day, whatever it was, after sleep and so forth, and clean up a little bit, we had to go back up there. And this Abraham Weiss, he just broke down. I mean, he was having a problem. He couldn't handle it, and I felt sorry for him. But I says, no, I'm going to. I didn't want to go up. I didn't want to, but I went. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to say he didn't want to go, and they needed me. Whatever it was, every time, every little bit of assignment, someone is dependent on you. Yeah. So I went up. I didn't stay there 3 nights. I stayed there one or 2 nights, whatever it was. I had someone else, and after that, I forgot. I was given a little bit of time I had what they call light duty.
Right.
That took a lot out of you because you had to stay awake. Another time that I found was real difficult. I was assigned. Ordinarily, I don't handle a lot of ammunition, so there was something going on. We were probably taking another hill, and I had to take apart ammunition party up the hill, ammunition carrying party. Well, the CTCs like to walk. They don't like the side. They got these heavy boxes of ammo on them, and they don't like to walk the side of the hill because they like to walk the ridge line. And I told the interpreter, I always had an interpreter because I didn't speak correct. I said, tell them not to walk the ridge line. I says, someone's going to spot us and we're going to draw fire. Sure enough, I hadn't finished talking, start getting mortar fire. Could hear it, close. Next thing, we were in the center of the mortar barrage. It's not the first time. But fortunately, I found a position. Everybody found positions, and we just laid there, I don't know how long. And then eventually the mortar fire cleared up, and they stopped, and we were able to proceed up with the ammo. I didn't like that situation. That mortar, very, very few people are killed by rifle bullets. You're killed by mortar, a piece of shrapnel. A mortar, if it's a big mortar, it has a lot of shrapnel, and they're very sharp and hot. And that's the shrapnel, the mortars, and the artillery. Now, when I was up on that other hill, 72 hours, whatever it was, there was all kinds of artillery fire, but we didn't have to worry about it because the artillery cannot land the way the artillery shell goes. It goes in an arc, and we were too close to them or whatever it is, and we got to where we were sitting in the daytime, and this artillery shell was going to our positions.
I see. Wow. Were you wounded at all?
No.
Oh, good.
Come pretty close.
Yeah.
I had a lot of prayers said for me.
That's great. Yeah, I'm sure you have so many hardships.
Well, when you look back at it, when I first got there, I was depressed because I got there because I messed up. I had a good position, good assignment. I had a second assignment and something, the whole 8th Army was in chaos. And they didn't want to give up the ground. They fought real hard for it. The hardship was sometimes, Korea has a rainy season, and I mean it rains and rains and rains. Now, most of the time, you're going to ask me a question about how was my living quarters. I didn't live in a hotel. None of us lived in a hotel, but there's some of our quarters you get used to it, and it's just like being, you're so happy that you have something, and you're safe, and you feel good about it. But most of the time, or I should say at least half of the time, you either slept out in the open air when the weather was nice, or in a pup tent if it was raining. You take a shelter. You have a shelter half. Your buddy of yours, like in my case, it was Bleakman. He had a shelter half. We put them together, and that's where we slept. The first time we slept in one, I'll never forget. We forgot to dig the ditch around it. And I ended up in the morning, but I slept through it. My back was wet. Now, the air mattress is about 2 inches, 2 3 inches. You carried an inflatable air mattress, and you blew on it, and you slept on it. But water got up to my back. Any place you stop to sleep for the night, you always dig a foxhole if there's none there, because you might need it. You don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and something's going on. Right. And you dig it within one jump from your pup tent.
Okay. So, do you often think about the Korean War and how you were involved? Okay. Not
really. I'm going to tell you, when I was in Korea, I slept whatever time I had to sleep, I slept every hour, every bit of it. Wow. If we had a 10-minute break, I'd fall asleep. My wife will tell you the same thing. And I'm still like that today. went to sleep, and I got a good night's sleep, whatever it was. Some nights no sleep, but no, I didn't. The only thing that bothers me that I think about is my best friend. Okay, he was killed in the Korean War. He was in the Navy.
What's his name?
In the Navy, Frank Cataldo. I want you, Frank. He was the only one from Iowa that was killed in the Korean, in the Navy from Iowa. The only one killed. There were a lot of people that were in the Navy. There were, and he was the only one. He was on a ship that was shelling the shores, North Korean shores, and the shell lobbed down to him. Got him. I had already returned from Korea, and I was back working, and he was going. He was in the Navy, and he was going. He knew he was shipping out, and I forget. He pats me on the back. We were like brothers. We went to vacation together, dated girls together. He was younger than me. He was actually 2 or 3 years younger than me. And he pats me on the back, and he has the Medal of the Miraculous Medal, and he says, "This thing is going to get me home." It probably got him home. And that was the only thing that, I dwell on. I says, yeah. I had, for a while, I had his letters I didn't open, his last letters. My last letters I sent to him, they were sent back to me. Yeah, that's the only thing that kind of bothered me, because he lived on the next block.
Right.
And I don't know, from the Korean War, I don't know if anyone from Des Moines was killed in the Korean War. I don't know. Maybe you could find it.
Yeah.
A lot in World War II, but he was. And
Wow.
that's, it gets back to me, and I say to myself, was you really scared or depressed or something?
I see.
No.
Have you by chance... Oh, what was you going to say?
No, I was going to say, when you asked about at the end of Korea, no, I had when I was sent back from Korea, I had an assignment at Fort Sheridan, Illinois, Chicago. Terrific place to be. I mean, it was one of the best assignments. I think more of that assignment than I think about Korea. And I only 3 months. And when I was getting discharged, they gave me an early discharge. They knocked off 3 months. I told the commanding officer, I don't want those 3 months. I want to stay here. I go back, I'm going to have to go back to work. You see what I got? Every day in a Class A uniform, like a job.
Right.
But when I was assigned there, the first assignment was the 174th and 179th MP, military police. And being that we were their flunkies, They did all the glamorous work, we did all the crappy work. And one of our crappy work was we had to, there was 2 set of barracks there. Two set of barracks. One was the ones that were AWL, and the other barrack was the ones at Fort Leavenworth. Those guys were facing 20 years to life. And you were assigned it, you work in one of them. My friend from Chicago was taking care of one. The guy found a piece of pipe real quickly. I don't know if you want to record. Found a piece of pipe, hit him over the head, ran away. Okay, the deal is, if you lose a prisoner, you have to, I heard it. I mean, it was, I don't know if it was facts, you had to do his time. Or if you lost a round of ammo, you were in a lot of trouble, because if you were issued ammo, you had to either bring a empty shell, or the ammo back.
So we can talk about your living quarter situation.
Oh, the living quarters, one we relieved, like the 1st Marines. We relieved the 1st Marines on the Kansas lines. They had built bunkers. Some of the bunkers were good, and some were so-so. And the Marines were terrific. They were a little different than us. They were gung-ho. They had a lot of tradition. And I always felt good when the Marines were around. But they got by with things that we couldn't get by with. Now, although I have some pictures, you had to have a shirt on. Your fatigue jacket had to be tight, buttoned down. If an officer or someone caught you with an open shirt, they'd write you a discipline report. The Army, and you had to wear a white T-shirt under your fatigue clothes. I mean, the Marines got by. They were, some of them are, I presume they're younger. No, I don't know. 18 years old, just joined the Marines.
Yeah.
I wonder if they came from California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, that was on the Kansas line, and that's the only time I can remember that we had bunkers that you could actually use. The bunkers are on the side of the hill, and the one I picked out, because you had your choice. You know, they were gone. Like picking a bedroom in a hotel. Mm. It had, so you could see all the way around, but it needed some reinforcement. It didn't have any sandbags on it, and I don't know whether they didn't have any. You generally, the bunker is generally some real thick, like I told you about stealing lumber from the bridge, the bridge people, about 4 inches thick. And then you lay that on top, you build your bunker, because you support the bunker between whatever it is, you have to support. Then you put some sandbags, if they're available. And most of the time, if you're fortunate, and we were, the CTCs did the work for you. You told them you want this, and what you do is you slip in some extra cigarettes or something.
Right.
And they took care of it. And so we, on a couple of bunkers, I heard the story where the soldiers that occupied it almost drowned in them. I don't know how they could drown in a bunker. The bunker was generally about 4 feet deep, 3 feet, 4 feet. I don't remember. And they just weren't too careful. It's just like we were on the first time we set up a tent. They weren't too careful about doing something to get your run off of the water, because August was a terrible month of rain. It rained about every day.
From when to when did you stay in Korea?
From May about 17th. I arrived in Korea May 17th to late March or early April. It had to be early April. And then I rotated. You said, you asked what was my favorite. When they come up and gave me the paper, it says, you're going home.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah, the couple of months before rotation were very difficult. You took extra care. I'm so close to going home. I'm so close. But there was a period of time where you really didn't care. I mean, in other words, you got over that fright, and it just, you become acclimated to whatever's going on, and it's everyday living. And it wasn't like living every day, but you knew what was going to come. If you knew the assignment, you knew what was going to come. You knew what to expect.
Right.
And some of the present time is, one time we had complete duty of getting the KIAs back to the rear. We were not rear, we were back behind the lines, but we had to get them back to the rear. And, when you put one or two, and I think there was days that we had like 15. And you didn't like that, He says, that could have been me. Unfortunately, 2 men from our platoon were killed, and it was while we were in that detail, but they sent someone. They didn't want us to handle them. They thought it would have been just a little bit too much. So someone else came and says, we're going to take care of those. And they did whatever. Generally, if we're going on after them, we have to take them, put them in a rubber bag. And the CTC did most of the time, except if it didn't have a head on. They would not touch it. And it was your job. And there's generally just only two GIs and one of the GI and two GIs and a trooper and all of the CTCs, and they were good about it. I could see that, but there was something about, I don't know, it. Another time I remember is I was coming off a hill. I'd bought something up a hill with CTCs, and they told us to wait till to wait till dark to go back down to our where we were at positions, and it meant going through no man land, and it took quite a bit of. We pulled a wounded. We had a wounded. Was that guy was in pain. He was bad. The medics up there, I guess they gave him something, whatever it is. It wore off and we moved him almost a foot at a time because the hill was very, very treacherous, and we didn't want to lose him. And that was. I got to a place I couldn't handle. I mean, he was yelling, screaming. He was in a lot of pain, and that had an effect on us and so forth. And we got him. We finally got him down, and they were able to. There was a jeep that took him up to. There's a helicopter pad that they some of the seriously wounded. They would fly out of it with an arrow, take them out with a helicopter, and get him real quick to the MASH.
Do you know if he survived and made it back to the States?
Oh yes, okay. That a lot of them. Mm-hmm. All the time I was there, we had the front line took the infantrymen. That's the front line. Took the brunt of the fight. Mm-hmm. We came close. Another time you said, was I ever injured? We were going down a main line, main supply line, MSL, main supply line, and that's kind of a path or whatever it was. It could be a wide road, but that's the way you got your supplies because everything you had come from the back, from the rear, come off a ship. And there was some engineers working, and we were passing, and we always talked by and always talk to another GI, and someone would have hit a landmine. I heard the landmine go off. I says, "Dear Lord, I expect any time." Only thing I got hit was with some dirt and gravel. No one was really injured. It was more of a percussion mine. In other words, the movement of the mine was supposed to knock you out or what. It was not a fragmentation mine like most mines are. It was nothing like that with the poor soldiers going through in Iraq. That was the only time that come almost. But I wasn't a footer from it, and it was the one. All I got. I didn't get none of the metal. I didn't. I said that's close as I came. Well, my first combat where I was mad. The only thing between me and the enemy was my shirt. That was an experience. That was, and I never forget. It was Memorial Day. I said, "Well, Memorial Day at home, we'd been going to the parade or something." No, we were in comm. We were moving. We were doing real good. The whole unit was moving. But anyway, one of the supply trucks, we call it supply train, was missing. I don't know. We wouldn't know where it was at. What happened to it? It might have went back. We don't know. But anyway, we were assigned to go back and find it. So there was one or two trucks. Our platoon leader, the lieutenant, the commissioned officer that was I forgot what we called him. Platoon officer in charge of us, manning, and we were in one truck, and there was another truck from, I don't know where they're from. But the platoon, second battalion was in this truck. On the truck, another guy that was there was Batrick. I never forget him. He was kind of, he was loud, but not, he didn't provoke you or anything, but he's just loud. And a nice guy to be around, but loud. And he was on there, and Manning. And we walked into an ambush. We drove right into ambush. River on one side, mountain on the hill on the other side. Inji River. And we walked in ambush. They were waiting for us. I don't know whether they sent that truck back or something. They know we'd come back looking for it, whatever it was. We walked in ambush. The ones on the riverside, they had it good. They jumped and got down in the riverbank, and there was in my squad, in my the truck with our commander. Some of these guys were there for 4 or 5 months, and I don't know what happened to them. Okay, so I go on the other side. And next thing I know is all kinds of, you could see the tracer, small arms fire, and one guy had me, whoever it was, and I could see the sand as he was hitting on one side or the other, and I thought I was a goner. Mm-hmm. And at that time I had an M1, and I was very familiar with an M1. I worked on it. I could take it apart and put it back together blindfolded. Mm. And the thing let me down. I went to, I want to backtrack a little bit. Okay. During basic training, we were told, kill or be killed. Okay? Another thing they told us, only about 5 to 10% of you are going to fire your weapon the first time you're in combat. I didn't want to be, I wanted to be the 5 or 10%. I was set. I says, I got to get one shot off. I got to get a shot off. Well, I went to fire my first shot. And I had when we jumped off we had bayonets attached. We were told to attach bayonets or something. I was shaking. I mean, I never was in a battle or anything. Anyway, this says attach your bayonet. So I threw my bayonet there. Okay. I finally was able to get in a stooping position. I kicked back the carriage, the slide that holds the ammo. I was able to get in a chamber to fire it. So I got it all fired. What I didn't know was the doggone bayonet was not attached correctly. The next thing I see is the bayonet going like that, plop. I said, where's my bayonet? I reached down for it, and what I did is I had part of it, a little part of it was touching the muzzle of the gun, and as I shot towards the enemy, I shot the bayonet off my rifle. So I pick it up, I can't put it back on my rifle, so I put it in my scabbard. And when I get back, I try to tell everybody, the enemy shot me. It wasn't. And they wouldn't buy it. But anyway, I get off a couple of rounds. I get to a place where whoever was watching me couldn't get to me. And then all of a sudden, one of the first sergeants, whatever, they had more rank than I had, says, you go over there and you help the machine gunner. I says, how am I going to make it over there? I finally got this. See, he was there. He's able to come up to me without drawing any fire. I says, I come across that road and I made it. How am I going to make it over there? I honestly tell you, in the back of my mind, I says, I'm a goner. I saw my mother getting that telegram. I made it over there. I got to the doggone gunner, and he looks at me. He says, what are you doing here? I says, I'm help. He had with a machine gun. He had ammo on a belt, and generally someone helps feed it. I said, I'm going to help you feed the ammo. He said, well, you're going to help me feed? I'm out of ammo. I'm out of here. He only had one belt. He said, what the hell are you doing now? I'm out of here. And he got out, and I got out. We was able to crawl out. And finally, we got things under control. I want to go back to the Spatrick guy. On the truck, we had a 50 caliber anti-aircraft gun. We were prepared, loaded and everything. We couldn't get back to the truck. Everybody jumped off. He made it back to the truck, was able to get some rounds off, and scatter the enemy. 50 caliber, that you cut trees with it. Mm-hmm. And that, whatever it was up there, was probably just a squad of Koreans or something. It wasn't, because it was no man's land. And they scattered, so we were able to get out of there. Right. But Lieutenant Manning, I saw him take, I bet 5 rounds, 10 rounds, I don't know, across his chest. They had a burp gun. The reason we called it a burp gun, it goes burp, burp. And they fire, before one shell is out the muzzle, there's 10 shells right behind it. And it cuts you up like it. But it's a real small caliber. And evidently he must have, he didn't get hit in a vital organ, but he was bleeding. But he was terrific. I mean, he got the man. That was my first. And I was awarded the Combat Infantryman badge because you came in contact with the enemy.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. I got some medals.
Yeah.
I'll go show them to you.
Yeah, let's take some photos.
I have. Are you recording?
Yeah. Show me.
I'll go get those. I
Yeah.
have a compliment infantryman badge. I have a presidential citation. There was only 3 of them that the division ever got. Presidential citation that was presented to us by Vice President Barkley, who came all the way from the United States and presented to us. Big ceremony. And I have a couple of good medal and good conduct. And I have a Korean service medal with 3 campaign or battle stars. In other words, I participated in 3 of their major campaigns, which is the most you could do in Korea because they go over a length of time. I would say the most you could do if you only had a 10-month period because they go over a length of time. They're not individual objectives or something. They were big campaign. One was the Chinese offensive that I walked into when I was first assigned. I was in that. That took us about a month and a half. We finally broke out of there. We were surrounded. The only way we could get our supplies. Now, when I say surrounded, it's not a small area. It's a big area. You think about here to Irvine, here to Irvine. We were surrounded. And the only way we could get supplies was by air. And I forgot the name of the plane, but there were twin fuselage planes. And they'd come in and they'd drop ammunition, medical supplies, rations, and whatever we needed in there. And they flew very, very low. Okay, this was on a Sunday. We were standing in chow line. And when you stand in chow line, you stand about 10 feet apart. Because they say, stand apart, one ping ball will get you if you're too close. In other words, they said, one shot, an ammo. They didn't want a bunch of men killed. They wanted one.
Right.
And they say, stand apart.
Right.
Anyway, so we were there, and all of a sudden, there was a you can write this, the 502 Niccolo Tray 503. The nickname was the Niccolo Tray. It was an all African American battalion, and they were providing us with cover fire. They kept the enemy away from us. Well, they almost had to fire ordinary, like I said, artillery shell lobs. They almost had to fire, almost pointing it very, very straight. And one of the planes runs into the shell. Right overhead, you hear this, and you look up, you see nothing but aluminum there in the air. Another airplane is coming down behind for the second drop, and it hits that, and it crashes, and you watch that thing going down. There are 12 men on each one of those planes. They lost their life trying to drop food to us. Right. That's war.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how much you were paid?
My last paycheck as a corporal, I was paid $70 a month. Plus, I received $50 combat pay, monthly combat pay. The combat pay, I was not paid until my last check because they added up every month. And my last check was $400 and some dollars. I take it back, it was $800 plus. That monthly pay in today's dollars, that $70 is like $600 today. And that $50, you had to do so many days in combat. Now it's changed. I mean, and they just bought that out during the Korean War.
I see.
Because for some reason, it wasn't paid till the end, till my last paycheck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been back to Korea by chance? Would you like to be invited?
I don't think I could handle it now.
Okay.
I have health issues.
Okay.
Yeah, if I was invited, if I could make it there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
But you do know how much the growth they have had, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like their democracy, economy, it's so different.
They're
now.
terrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
They they've bounced back real quick. They were very resilient. What is being done? I should ask. What is being done to keep the Korean War from being a forgotten war? In my mind, it was a war is a war, because the smallest unit on, whether in Korea, Germany, Japan, or something, is the smallest unit. You're fighting. You're fighting, and you're fighting for survival. Right. So that's a war. That's hell. I mean, they can call it what they want, but when you get over 1 million people, civilians killed, and the Chinese that were killed, because we did most of our big offensive was against the Chinese. The Air Force went in and slaughtered them in columns, and you'd go by the street and you'd see them stacked bodies. They were people. They were son of someone. They were husband of someone. Bodies along the street, one after another, hundreds and hundreds of them. Right. There was one area where the Air Force called them and just slaughtered them. It war is hell.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I remember is when we got off the ship in Busan, whoever addressed us on the loudspeaker says, "You're not here." These aren't his exact words, but I'm going to try to give you the crux of what he told us. "You're not here to be a hero. You're not here to get a decoration or something. You're here to save your ass. And from now on, when you're doing that, you're also bringing victory to the, I forgot what his word, you're bringing victory to the United States or whatever it was. You're doing that. You're doing two things. You're saving your life, and we're achieving our objective in the war." I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 awards. One is I received a beautiful, the Korean medal I received. I have to show you the letter I received from the President of South Korea on the 50th anniversary. I have it there. This is the presidential citation. This is a combat infantryman badge. This is these guys at 38th, I mean, they were gung-ho. They even went to Japan and had this thing made, and you wore it every day. Got out of there.
Wow, it looks really good. And then, how about your photo now? Here, this is you. Do you remember when that was taken?
That was taken about 2 days, right after my discharge in Des Moines. Oh, I should have put that in my book. That's my shot record. That's my Papa-san. Took care of me. I mean, in the morning. See, he made hot water. He had an old helmet. Okay. See, that's camel wire. Communication wire. You get a roll of it. Someone give it to you. And look, he got the wood. I was a private first class for. And we picked up our beer ration, get a case of beer. Wow. This is the only guy I keep in contact with, Merle Prezu. Mm-hmm. He's in that. Okay, let me tell you about this, and you can record that. We had this battalion commander. Now, he has to be my age. You wouldn't know what Burma signs are. In the old days, when they were before the freeways, they had the 2-lane, highways going each way. Burma shave was something that men used to shave with a razor, and they'd have these sayings. They were funny, and they made you laugh. So he comes up with this, and he tells me to paint him. He says, "You're a printer. Although the front lines are in sight, there's no cause for fright, for up ahead with colors bright waves the flag of the spearheaders impel white."
Wow, you did that?
I painted it. Wow.
That's great.
And you know what? I don't know. I don't remember a brush. I think we put something. Look how cold it was.
Yeah.
Look, that's Bleakman. That's a fire. That's in a hill, and that is the front lines. Right. We went out in the dead of winter. And this is, what the hell is his name? From Thibodaux, Louisiana. McDonald or something. And look at those guys. They were from the south and they were freezing. Look at me. All I had is my field jacket. They had their parka. To me, it was. I come from the Midwest.
Wow.
Okay,